All right. Perfect. So this seems like the official start. Lena, can you just give me a head nod if we are live?
Yes, we are.
And we are. Okay, great. So welcome everyone to this webinar. Very excited to be here. My name is Sabine Krause. I am the event marketing manager from WorkMotion, and I have three amazing speakers from the companies here with me. And today we're going to tackle the topic remote work first versus offices. What is the right approach and the right balance for each business model? I'm very excited to be here. I would like to introduce first my speakers, but also before we officially start, if there are any questions, feel free to comment within the chat room and we are happy. Hey everyone, and we are happy to get back to the questions at the very end of the webinar. So feel free and let us know what you're thinking about. Our three panelists, let's start. We have Albane from BlaBlaCar. Albane, she is the DEI, the Employer Branding and Talent Acquisition Lead from a very exciting company model. Thank you so much for being here, Albane, and a pleasure having you with us.
Yeah,
all
thank
right,
you
then
so
we
much.
are. Thank you. Then we have Alex from Jobgether. Alex from Jobgether is also remote first company business model. Very excited because with WorkMotion we have some similarities, and I'm super curious to see your point of view and your experience. Thank you so much for being the speaker today.
Thank you guys for having me, and excited to be here today.
Great. And then last but not least, we have Lema. She's also from WorkMotion, and she is the VP of People and can give us great insights on remote work, but also very based on people within the company. So super excited to get your point of view. And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sabine.
All right, great. So remote first, we know since a couple of years, there was a big change for a lot of companies out there. A new business model was created, or also already existed, but there was more value to it. There was more opportunity to it. And I think it's very interesting because BlaBlaCar, Albane, your company started back in the early 2000s, and you were a complete office company business model, and you changed to a remote model. Can you give us a little bit of background there? Like when did you start and when did you do the change?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Sabine. Maybe to first give you what we have, and then happy to give you a bit the history behind and the why. So basically today we have two types of setup existing at BlaBlaCar. So we have what we call the hybrid setup, meaning basically you're living close to the office, and you can come basically about any time you want. So you can come like once a week, or you can come 5 days a week. It really depends of yourself. And we also have another setup, which we call the full remote setup. So meaning you're based in the country of employment of your contract, but you can work anywhere in this country. And so basically this setup is you're coming back once a month to the main office. So basically, when have we started to have this setup going from on-site to hybrid and full remote was actually in 2019 when we opened a full remote setup. Why? The main objective was to be more attractive on the market, especially for tech profiles, so for engineering and product teams. Where we've seen that the competition was very fierce. We're all offering the same perks, same type of compensation, etc., as other tech companies in the industry. And so the idea was really to be disruptive and to be able to target especially more senior engineers that already made this change in their life. So that was when we started. Then we had, of course, like the COVID from 2020 to 2022, where we have all been in a full remote setup, plus a change of the office. And so basically since 2022, we're offering both of these setups to all of our employees, independently of their jobs or their levels within the company. So I think like the key takeaway for us on this journey and this change is really to know our talent persona, who we're looking to attract and retain within BlaBlaCar, and to know their flexibility expectations regarding remote work. And so this is how we've come to this conclusion today.
Nice. This is so interesting because also 2019, even before COVID, you already realized, oh, there's an opportunity here. We want to change our model to be more attractive in the market. This, I think, is very nice because Alex, you from Jobgether, I think with you, it was due to the pandemic that you said, oh, remote work. This is like the business model I want to try. I think this is something I can be the most profitable with. Right. So was it due to COVID, or when did you start with Jobgether?
Yeah, for us, it was we created Jobgether in March 2020. So, first month of COVID. And funny story is Juan and I, the two initial co-founders, we met on a Zoom call during, early March, and we actually started Jobgether without meeting each other. So that was full remote, to an extreme. And this is what we decided to do from day one. Full remote, no offices. Today we are around 25 people, fully remote, and you can work from anywhere. We don't force people to be in one country or in one region. We had people, both two brothers from Colombia, they decided to move to Australia. Well, they moved to Australia and they kept the job. I would say only for the sales team, we try to have the sales team ideally like in the Western Europe for obvious reasons of being able to talk to customers. Other than that, yeah, we are fully remote. You do whatever you want. You can be traveling. We have people, Olena in the marketing team, she's been traveling. She stayed 3 months in one country and then moved to the US and then moved to Portugal. And this is what we do. And then later on, I would guess I will tell a bit more about what we do to meet, but this is our setup today, fully remote.
I love that. It sounds so nice. It's like she's there in the US, maybe she goes to Mexico, maybe she goes there. It's like it's not just work in one place. There's so much more to it. It's like a new work-life balance.
And she decided what's best for her. She wants to live in Portugal now, then she goes to Portugal, and we don't say anything.
Yeah, I think this is very, very interesting. And for WorkMotion Lema, I know WorkMotion was also created, it was due to COVID. Was it the same thought like Jobgether we had, or what was the opportunity WorkMotion realized? Like here, this needs to be a remote work business model 100%. How did this all start? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry, Lema. Always happens. After years, it still happens.
Yeah, so our business model itself, so it says that remote work, it works, yeah, and you just have to have the systems, the processes, and the setup. Then you can enable people to work remotely. So for us, it was natural to say we are a remote first company because we are enabling other companies to hire remotely and hire people in other countries. But so how we started as a fully remote company, and afterwards, after the pandemic was not that significant anymore, we opened offices in 3 countries. We have now offices on 3 locations. We have in Berlin, in Barcelona, and Cairo. And I think this model is the most convenient one. So Berlin and Cairo, for example, are one of our these are our like hubs. So we have a lot of people there. So it was natural for us to open their offices. But still, we are a remote first company, and we use the offices more as a socialized, it's like social hub, a social opportunity to meet people, to connect, and not to really it's not because people cannot focus and people cannot work at home. It's more about I go to the office to meet my colleagues.
Right. So there's also remote work completely, but you already mentioned there needs to be some kind of social engagement. I think it's a very good point, and I'm very curious to dive into this more deeply within this webinar, because I also think there's something about social distancing that really gets connected with remote work, and it's a topic that needs to be addressed for every company out there who says remote work or business. Let's do it, but there are factors to be aware of. And before we dive into the how-to, like what do you actually need to make this a successful remote work business model, Albane, so you changed from completely office to remote. Would you say, yes, that was needed, and yes, this is a business model, this change, you can only recommend it because it's for competitiveness, for example?
Yeah, clearly. I mean, I think again on you really have like different expectations per type of audience, per type of profiles that you have. But I think like definitely offering this full remote setup enables us to expand our talent pool. And so clearly we have great metrics in terms of hiring. Like for example, taking last year, like 22% of our hires have been hired as in a full remote setup. So we can see that it is indeed like a need, a wish of our of the talent that we're trying to attract. And taking like the engineering department, it represents like almost half, like 48% of our hires. So clearly it is a competitive advantage for the talents that we're looking to hire and retain, to offer this full remote setup. We can also see that in metrics that we follow in like employer branding, like the ratings that we have on Glassdoor, for example. We also track our engagement, and we can see that indeed like we have a strong employee NPS for our full remote employees versus hybrid. So I think it's definitely big benefit and added value for us to offer this both of these setups.
Yeah, very interesting. I agree. I also think this is just such an advantage in this year we should all take use of. And now diving a little bit into the how-to, because I remember a couple of years ago when I was in an office, normally as an employee, you go to your office and there's an IT department and you will get like maybe a monitor and a laptop and you just start working. But now with this remote work setup, you're at home and you just, how do I even when do I start? Will this be taken care of? What do I need to actually change my home into an office? And I think this is a very interesting question. What is the equipment, the equipment setup, like from a technology standpoint of view, that employees need, that you need to provide as an employer? So Albane, what do you think? What are the basics? Okay, if you want to start a remote working business, this is what you need to be aware of. This is what your team needs, or otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah. So I think you need two things. So as you said, I think you need like to have the right IT like tools and setup. So in terms of technology, but I think you also need to work around the culture, meaning the ways of working. How do you actually use this technology, these like tools on a regular basis? So I think it's important to address both. So I think in terms of like the right tools, I think it's just having everything online, making sure that it works well. So we have like different tools that we use, like the Google Suite, Confluence, Slack, DocuSign, etc. So making it easy to do everything online. And then regarding the how-to, so we have worked on writing like guidelines and new like working principles to make sure that everyone can onboard, especially like newbies, on this new like work setup, can get used to some tips and ways of working in this more flexible world. And I think it's also important regarding like these guidelines to train people to make sure they're at ease, they can ask their questions, etc., because it cannot always seem so smooth So I think it's also important to acknowledge that.
I can imagine, because if you're at home, you don't have anyone next to you just be like, hey, how does this work?
Yeah.
And where do I start? And who do I now ask? Like basically everything online, and it's like this huge chat group, but you don't really know like how and when and why, when do I start? They're like, it needs to be a guideline for sure, like some sort of guidance for everyone to understand. Alex, what do you think? Like what tools can you also name as examples? Because I think there's a lot. And I don't know how companies start. Do you like Google, okay, these are the tools which makes your life easier? And like, how do you even set up your company? How did you go?
Yeah, I would say even above any tools, you need trust. That sounds silly to say that, but when you're working fully remote or remote first, like BlaBlaCar, you need to trust the people you work with. Yes, because they're not sitting next to you, you can't watch them. You need to trust them. When you are working with remote workers, you can't control them. I mean, some companies do. I don't agree with that, but you can't control them. You don't know what time they're actually gonna start working. You don't know when they go on break. You don't know when they stop working. So you need a lot of trust. So for me, that is the number one tool in a way that you need. And yes, it's not easy. And before that, for 10 years, I've been working in an office next to my coworkers. To be able to fully trust your coworkers is not an easy task, but this is the number one component to make it work. In terms of tools, so for us internally, we use Discord, which is similar to Slack for communication. We really push, and again, it's not easy, but we really push for asynchronous communication. People, me first, we used to think that when you need something, you need it straight away. First of all, 90% of the time, you can find the answer yourself instead of asking your manager. And when you think that you need the information now, again, 90% of the time, you don't need it now. So asynchronous communication works very well. What does it mean? That means that you are sending a message to someone and that person might reply to you within 10 minutes, an hour, or 24 hours. And I think it's key for remote work because you don't know what the person is currently doing, whether the person is on a meeting, whether the person went to the gym, for example, at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. That's also what happens with remote work. Asynchronous and being able to wait is key to make it work. And regarding tools. And so, yeah, then we use the normal, tools, the Google Suite. With emails, we don't have internal emails. For example, at Jobgether, it's banned. Unless you forward an email you receive, but we don't send any internal emails. It's everything through Discord. And then what we do, we try to limit the number of meetings as much as possible with an agenda every time. And what we do, we try to put a camera on, even though if you don't want to, you don't put it, but we try to push for that, to make it a bit more fun. And what we do as well with meetings, the first 5 minutes, it's always about fun, telling a joke or telling people what you've done last weekend, for example, to make it a bit informal, the same way you would do it in real life. So this is what I can share regarding tools.
I like that. Yeah, also don't lose the fun. Every time you connect, every time you see your face, it's actually something special because you're from home. It's like, it makes it so much more valuable. And then you can add these little nuances, like, hey, how are you? By the way, I have a funny background, and you get way more interaction. And I also think asynchronous working, that is such a big word, and it's so important because all of a sudden you need to work on the same project at the same time with someone who is not next to you. Like, just like be like clear communication, sharing the same information, working on it without scheduling meetings the whole day. Because I also see sometimes calendars of work colleagues and I say, oh God, like, well, when do you have time to even have a snack or a bite? It's just filled. And I think there's also, there needs to be some guidance, there needs to be some help to really make this successful, for sure. Lema, what do you think? Do you 100% agree? Is there anything you would like to add just from equipment, like from tools kind of perspective? Or you think it's already pretty much set so far?
Plus one on what Albane and Alex said. I 100% agree with this. I think what we're missing were engagement tools. So coffee dough that or leap some, and really like push people to use it and incentivize them to use it, to say thank you. And what's also important to all these tools like Confluence, Leapsome, but also Slack. Slack seems so easy. It's not. So you have to enable people using this and how to. So how to use Asana. So Asana is one of our holy grails in our company. We use it a lot. But Asana is so, it has so many layers to it, and to use it in the correct way can make you so much more efficient, and also helps you to make the lives of your direct reports easier if you know how to set up the right Asana board, for example. And what we do is because we're not thinking everyone knows how remote work functions. We don't think this, and also every company has their own culture of remote work, so it differs. So as soon as you start working, or as soon as you start and you have your first day at WorkMotion, you will have a 7-day intensive onboarding. And this is not only about our systems and processes and knowledge and like this very functional things, but we are doing a lot for team building and encouraging people to talk to each other, to be more courageous, to also to get used to this setting. It's not natural. It's not a natural setting, to be honest. It's getting more and more natural, but really like encouraging people and make them, and that's very important, make them comfortable to say something remotely and ask questions. So they know it's a sweet spot. Everything is right. You can always raise your hand and share your opinion or share your knowledge, whatever it is, or ask a question. And then in addition to that, we have a 2-day remote work academy. And there we're tackling like for us, the most important aspects that we think that we want to share with our colleagues. So it's asynchronous work. It's feedback in a remote work setup versus feedback on site. It's very different. Communication also very different. What Alex said, asynchronous communication, you have to encourage people to do this. Cultural differences when you have like 40, 50 plus locations, productivity, and also productivity in a remote environment. What does productivity mean in this, and how does it differ from a on-site job? Exactly.
Great. Yeah, 100%. And I really like that you mentioned there also the people, the culture. I think this is a very important topic too we really need to dive into, because there's a lot of people at home, distance from their co-workers, with emotions, with questions, with stress, with their personal life, which is now getting kind of mixed with their professional life because there's no office they go to anymore. And I think it's so super important that companies understand these employees also need support, and there are ways to support them. And especially here, I would like to dive also into the social distancing kind of topic, like how can we as a company support them, generally speaking, the culture, and especially thinking about connecting, in-person connections, to give them still opportunities to see each other, which I also think is quite an important topic. And Lema, since you're VP of People WorkMotion, I would love for you to start there. What do you think? How can you support, and how does WorkMotion tackle this issue?
Yeah, so I think there are more layers to it. So you have the general, or like the things that you can do for the whole company to get updates, to be connected, but on a company level. Yeah. So what we do, we have all hands meetings like every week or every 2 weeks, so bi-weekly, because in an on-site setup, you do this quarterly, you do this once a month, but it's very important when you're not in the office, when you're not seeing your colleagues, when you're not seeing your people, that you have a stage or a platform where you share updates, where you share best practices, knowledge, but also tackle company-wide problems and try to address them, and you need them more frequently. Then we have also on a general level, to make things easier, we have a general handbook. Yeah, so it's on Confluence, and you will find everything on there. We have a general handbook, but also for each department, like also Alex said, documentation, which is not that easy because you think you have something in your mind, so it's there, but you cannot expect that other people know it as well. So you have to document it and also make it available. Also then I already said that engagement tools and also to incentivize people to use this engagement tools. We have a thank you Slack channel. It sounds so easy, right? But people are so happy about this. If you like shout out them and say, thank you, that was so great what you did last week. Then for like a departmental level, we have not every department, but a lot of departments, they have town hall meetings in a smaller setup where they can ask questions and like connect on a personal level with smaller groups. And then we have Coffee Donut, and there you will like talk to, I will say, random colleagues where maybe you don't have a lot of touch points to, because you have different departments and you have different locations. But this Coffee Donut enables you to, let's say, we are a lot of people. We are 250 people. Yeah, so you cannot talk to everyone at once and be personal. But this tool enables you to meet new people, and I think that's a cool thing.
It really is. Like, because remote work means you have so many colleagues from all over the world, and you have the opportunity to meet them, because you don't automatically reach out to all of them. Hey, who are you? There's a tool that actually helps you to get this social engagement touch point, which I think is nice. Alex, in Jobgether, how is it for you? Like, do you also have do you meet in person? Do you have offices? Do you use how do you keep the people in touch and happy and motivated?
Yeah, I think one thing to realize is remote work for most of people is usually the first time they work fully remote. So it's still new. It's new for employees. It's new for employers. So I think it's a learning curve that we all trying to improve that. But for us, we put in place, because we are fully remote. We don't have offices, and we have people in Australia, in the Philippines, in Colombia, in France, in Spain. We are very much spread all over the world. So what we do, like Lema was saying, to help them, we document everything. We use ClickUp. They have a part which is a bit similar to Notion, where we try to document everything. Again, it's not easy because that's not something that we used to do. Maybe tech teams document more than sales team or marketing teams, but document everything. That means that if you start tomorrow at Jobgether, you can directly have access to everything. We don't hide anything. Everything is accessible to anyone. And someone starting in marketing can read the documentation about the content team or the sales team if they want to. Everything is open. We also help financially our employees for co-working, for example, because remote work, still some people think remote is work from home. No, it's not. If you want to, it could be work from home only, but it could also be working, by the beach. You can be working from a co-working. You could be working wherever you want. So if you want to go to a co-working place, we actually pay for that. We also help financially employees for the setup of the desk at home, whether they need to buy a new chair or a new laptop or a second screen, for example. We help them financially because we believe it's really important that you feel good. Working from home during the pandemic was a nightmare for everyone because no one was ready. If you work from home today, you need to have some place in your house, in your flat, where it's dedicated for work. I don't think that can be, ideally, it can't be like the place where you eat, like the kitchen table. Have a place for you. What we do once a month, like a virtual meeting, the whole company, everyone in a virtual meeting. We do face-to-face events, so there could be face-to-face meetings per region For example, people in the tech team is mostly in South America, where they can meet in Bogota, for example, or in Medellin, because there are a lot of people in Colombia. We're going to have one in Europe, in Portugal next month, for example, for the team in Europe, or that could be a meeting per team. The sales team, we used to meet just the salespeople, for example. And we also have once a month, we have a feedback day. So it's usually a Friday where it's a bit more quiet. And on that day, it's dedicated to feedback. If you don't want to do it, you're not forced to do it. But it's also, so managers to the team, but also the team to the managers. It should work both ways. And you can also give feedback to other people in other teams, for example, if you want to. And we try to book like 10, 15-minute call with other people, and it's purely about giving feedback. So yeah, this is what we do to help people with working together.
I like that. There's like a whole list, and I really like the core smart, the co-working space. Me personally, for example, I do too. Every day I go to a core working space just because I need to differentiate home from work. But this is something I also learned during the time. At the beginning, I started working just from home, and then after I think it was 9 months, I was like, I'm talking to my fridge. I need to get out of your new setup. It also depends really on the people. And this is why we need to understand the people we are working with, because everyone maybe has a different kind of value in their life and a different approach.
The beauty of remote, and that's what Albane was saying at the beginning, is giving people choice to choose what's best for them. You know, is it working from home? Fine. Is it going to a co-working? Fine. Is it going to the office? Fine. But at least you give people choice, because, you know, if you have 500 employees, you have 500 different situations, personal situations, you know.
For sure. Very interesting. And you, Albane, for you, I can only imagine you had a complete change from office to remote work. I have the feeling you learned so much. Is there anything else you can add, or anything you really want to underline from your perspective, from your experience with BlaBlaCar?
Yeah, so I definitely join Alex and Lema. I think we've, also worked on the same thing, like having a specific budget, documenting, like sharing feedback. Maybe two things to add on top of that, I think, I think we have to also acknowledge that when you work remote, it might be more difficult to like disconnect. And I think that's what you were just saying, like Sabine, to be able to kind of separate, your home place and your home from the office. So something that we've done to help on that is do a partnership with a company called Mocha Care to really leave the room open for our employees to discuss and about this work-life balance topic, which is also key on this. And the second item maybe that I would add is we still invest a lot on engagement initiatives, so like activities that we do in our office. And so I think it's super important today to really include our full remote colleagues in this. And so the team is really making sure we are inclusive enough on this. So we're having a lot of rituals to still meet each other, because I totally agree that with you, Lema, that when we go to the office, it's for like social interactions first, and then like doing deep work or reflection on some projects.
I like that. Very nice. I think too, there's so much to take in mind, so much experience. You just need to kind of try and see what works for you, see what works for your people. I think this is super important. And I would like, because we're kind of getting to the end of this webinar, we do have 2 questions. I really want to take the time for you guys to respond to these 2 questions. And then after the questions, maybe we can have like one sentence or one short summary from each of you. What do you think does the future look like? Like, is this so far will it just stay the same way, or do you think there will be another great change in 10 years we need to be aware of? And that will be pretty much it to the webinar. But let's dive right into these 2 questions from Rosie. So the first question would be, there are still a lot of companies that don't have hybrid working and employees have to go into the office every single day. What is one thing you would say to business managers to get them to consider moving to a hybrid work model? Let's start with Alex. What do you think to these questions? How would you answer it?
I think that really quickly, they wouldn't be able to hire anyone if they force people to consider this 5 days a week. For many, many years, we used to get in the tube every morning for like an hour or two to go to basically an office just to send email and Slack messages. The only good thing COVID brought to us was, understand that you don't have to be physically in the office to do your job. And people, I don't believe people want to go back to that, to that life of getting in a tube every morning. People want to have a better work-life balance. And people, for many years, we used to adapt our lifestyle to our jobs. And now people want to adapt the job to the lifestyle. So I think employers like this, they either change quickly or they just wouldn't be able to hire anyone and to retain the talents. Yeah,
I agree. I think this pretty much sums it up. Also, Albane, I remember you said it also in the beginning, this is just the way the world changed. This is something to be competitive. If you want to stay in the business as a competitive company, there needs to be some kind of flexibility like hybrid work, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one tip that I would give to managers and to companies still not ready is just to to share like analysis that we see. I mean, we there's a lot of like research paper on what remote work enables and what is the effect on like productivity, on engagement. It goes back to what you were just saying also, Alex. So I think what's easier is that today we have a lot more like figures and studies that we can share with managers to really prove that this is this is working.
Right, for sure. Lema, would you agree on this?
Yes, I 100% agree with Alex and Albane. I think that's showing them papers or telling them that in future they will have consequences, this doesn't help. Why? Because this is a mindset thing. These people are afraid of going hybrid because it's like Alex said, you have to trust. It's a lose of control. So you have to take the step as a manager to say, I don't need my people to sit next to me. I don't need I don't have to watch my people. I trust them. So maybe I would question question the managers. What is your leadership style and what are you, so what is your goal with your team, and do you have the right team? So if you don't trust your team, then maybe there is another problem than for hybrid work. So hybrid work won't destroy the efficiency or anything, but it's about the lack of trust, which will lead to other problems in the future.
Yeah, and I think you already answered also the second question on hybrid work. Like, what is a misconception about hybrid work? It's exactly that it's not going to ruin the good work which is done by your employees, right? Because it's just a different model and work still gets done and gets done well. You just need to know how and to support, adapt a little bit. But it's not like a misconception. What do you think is another misconception of hybrid work? Like besides the trust that something gets lost, maybe? What do you guys think?
No, I would say it's the biggest misconception is that people think remote work is vacation. So a lot of times people are not in this in a setup where it looks like an office or looks like a co-working space. People are saying, oh, are you doing vacation? No, I'm just working from another place. So, and this is also something that I'm in Germany. I can say this, a lot of Germans think. So not in Berlin, because Berlin is like the very remote or remote friendly, but in other cities, if you work from the beach, let's say, you have a problem because people.
It's very true. And let's dive right into the last question. do you guys hire from Africa? In regards to trust, how do you trust a new hire from another country? Joseph Adakpour, I believe is his name, is based in South Africa, and this comes from him. Do we hire in South Africa? Does WorkMotion hire in South Africa, Lema?
Yes, we do hire in South Africa, and not only there, we have also other African countries where we hire actively. And I think this question, it doesn't matter where the person sits. If the distance is bigger, or like, you know, if the person sits in Berlin and is working remotely, or in South Africa and Cape Town and doing remote work, that doesn't matter. I think you have to have your recruiting like in place, and really know who you want to have in your company and whom to hire. So it starts with recruitment, and also as a remote first company, you have to have specific requirements, also specific things that you ask for, and the whole process looks a bit it differs from a on-site job, I would say. It starts with recruitment, and then you get a feeling of if there is a match or a mismatch with the candidate, and sometimes you're wrong, sometimes it's not a match, but that's fine, because then you learn something from it, and you can implement these learnings for the next batch.
Got it. Alex, what do you say?
Yeah, first we hire from anywhere. So we hire from Africa, South Africa, of course. I think you have two ways of seeing it. You can say, oh, I have someone from a new country, it's going to be a challenge, it's going to be difficult. Or you might just say as a positive, it's someone from a different culture, from a different country, that can bring something that we don't have in a company. And at Jobgether, we try to keep the positive, and we have, I don't know exactly how many nationalities do we have, but we have a lot of nationalities, and it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter where you live. As soon as you join Jobgether for the right reasons, and as soon as you believe in our mission, we don't care where you're from, and we really see that as a positive. As a positive to have someone from a different country. So yeah, that's the way we see it. Because I've hired people from France or from the UK who are terrible. So it doesn't really matter. You can have bad hires from the same country as you, and you can have bad hires from a country on the other side of the world. I don't think you should see it as it's going to be harder because the guy is in South Africa or wherever. At the end of the day, you have amazing talents everywhere, and if you have the legal setup to hire people from anywhere, it's not easy for all companies yet. It's becoming more and more easier. It shouldn't matter where a person is from.
Yeah, I like that. Albane, what do you say?
Yeah, so on our side, we're not there yet. As I said, we're offering full remote in countries where we have offices, or at least where we have legal entities. So that means in 6 countries today. So of course, we do hire people from anywhere in the world. Clearly, we're sourcing everywhere, but that means you need to work within this country of employment. As you just said, Alex, I think that today on our side, we do have legal constraints, so we're not there yet, to really have this like worldwide approach where talents can actually live wherever they want. Maybe we'll go there, in the future. But so that's our reality today.
I like that. Like equal opportunity, it can be an enrichment for sure, but also, of course, there's a legal compliance. A company needs to make it possible. It's not that easy just from hire everywhere in the world, but there is definitely an opportunity there for sure. I like that.
Apparently, WorkMotion can help, right?
Of course.
Apparently.
Okay, let's talk after this webinar. Everything we have. Perfect. Thank you so much. I just want to end this webinar with maybe each of you can give just like 1 or 2 sentences of what do you think the future of remote work looks like? And hands down, remote work versus offices, yes or no? Is there a yes or no answer? Ben, if you would like to start.
Yeah, so I think it's tough to say yes or no. I mean, clearly, I think remote work is here and it's here to last for long. I think it's super hard to, to go back to the previous way of doing. So, I mean, again, I think that this will be a reality, a different reality per depending on the country and depending on the company, sorry, and depending on the talents that you want to again like hire and retain, but definitely there to stay.
I like that. Alex, your final words.
Yeah, of course, I agree with Albane. Remote work is here to last. I think it's only the beginning. What I really see is companies are not really well structured just yet. I mean, it just happened 2 years ago. It's nothing. But I really think the future of work is about choice, as I said earlier, giving people choice to choose what's best for them. And I really like the setup of BlaBlaCar, for example, where you have an office, a really nice office, actually, where you can work if you want to, but you don't come to the office to work. You come to the office to socialize, to meet people. You can work, obviously, but it's not the only purpose of the office like it used to be for the last, 50, 80 years. And if you want to, in my case, I work on the outside of Madrid, for some personal reasons. I can't go in the center every day. I work from home and I'm really happy with it. But at least I have the choice. So this is what I think about the future of work.
Interesting. And Lema, your final words, what do you think?
I +1 on Albane and Alex. Remote work won't go away so easily. What I think is that the social aspect, meeting people or meeting your colleagues, this won't go away. Yeah, so you will always have the urge to meet people on site and meet people and talk to them face to face, because we're humans and we strive for connection, and we strive for like a real face to face conversation. So I can't imagine that. We have WeWork, we have these kind of things, but I can imagine that in the future, there will be maybe companies and startups really focusing on these personal or this personal or face-to-face aspect of remote work companies, and offer a I don't know, building or like a setup like WeWork, but more for socializing and less for work, where then remote work companies can book it, or on a monthly basis and on different locations, and then the people can go there and just like Soho House, but in cool, you know what I mean? So Soho House is not cool, but I mean something which is like work nice, and you meet your people and have a place to meet, and also a dedicated place to meet. I think that will be something coming in the future, I can imagine.
Great. Yeah, I also think, I think that we have been through so many changes in such few times, and companies had to adapt. All of a sudden, there are more opportunities, but also challenges. And I think this is an ongoing process. And I want to say thank you so much for the insights. I think this is a super interesting topic. And also, thank you so much for taking the time for today's webinar. I hope this was educational for everyone. And let's see where this goes. Like 10 years from now, let's hold another webinar. Let's talk again. I would love to. Thank you so much, Alex and Lema.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
It.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. And let's see each other again soon in person. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.